Hey guys, I'm Justin with Legato Financial Group. Our firm is passionate about helping educate consumers, which is why we're powering the Gaining Interest podcast. The podcast of quick conversations with industry experts on topics that you want to know about, from sports to dining to healthcare and automotive, and really everything in between. It's hosted by one of the greatest local personalities that I've met, that's John Ramsey.
I'll tell you why I love this podcast, because it's all about community. We used to call it water cooler talk, and that no longer exists. But if it's interesting to you, it's interesting to us. We encourage you to tell your friends. As Justin mentioned, we're going to talk about everything under the sun. We will be gaining interest, and we appreciate you watching. Welcome once again to Gaining Interest, powered by Legato Financial. We are very proud of the fact that here in Kentucky, we produce 95% of the world's bourbon. The most advanced distillery is the Whiskey House of Kentucky. With me now is the co-founder and the CEO of Whiskey House of Kentucky. He is David Mandell. David, welcome in.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure.
Okay, my pleasure. You're an interesting cat, interesting company. You know, my takeaway after reading all this about your company is custom whiskey. I know it's much more complex, but that's kind of where the concept started, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And again, thank you for having me here today. You know, it all goes back. I've been in the industry for about 20 years. It didn't start in whiskey, but it came to whiskey in 2013 when I moved to Bardstown, settled there, and we founded Bardstown Bourbon Company. And as we were building that business, we came up with the idea to do custom whiskey production. And really, we were the first company to do that and to actually do complete custom whiskey production at that facility. And so we learned it. We did a lot of things right. We did a lot of things wrong, but we really learned that business. And so then after we sold that business in 2022, we founded Whiskey House of Kentucky with a very different approach.
Yeah, you claim to be the most advanced distillery, and I thought in America, but you're saying in the world, correct?
Well, I mean, let's take United States for now. Okay. We could establish that.
Well, and what exactly does that mean? Because we've talked to a lot of master distillers, a lot of people in the bourbon industry, and we know that, hey, Kentucky's a great environment because of the corn, because of the change of season, and the way that bourbon can age, and limestone, and we can talk about all that. But you kind of take it to another level with the technology side, and that makes you the most advanced distillery. Talk about it.
It's really true. I think it's a very different approach. And so what we did with Whiskey House of Kentucky is it really is the first distillery where you're combining techniques, advanced manufacturing techniques from the food industry, advanced food manufacturing, and you're applying them to distilling. And so because of our business, what we do is, we produce for some of the largest spirits companies in the world, great craft distilleries, large brands, international production, but we produce complete custom recipes from beginning to end. And so when you're doing that and you have a facility where you're setting it up to be able to run multiple different recipes through a massive system, right? So you've got to have tremendous flexibility, but the key is to be able to have complete consistency while you're running that through. So you're not going like this in the system. Without getting too detailed, if the system isn't set up properly, you're stealing steam from the cooker and the stills, you're losing alcohol at the bottom, and you're injecting undesirables into the liquid. But what we did with a combination of the design, the sequence of operations, and the technology, we're able to run multiple different mash bills through a huge system to get complete consistency, which results in tremendous quality and efficiency.
Okay, after this short conversation we've had, I'm already agreeing. You are the most advanced, okay? It's interesting, though. So who is, and maybe this doesn't exist, who is your typical customer, or if not typical customer, tell me about someone who would approach the Whiskey House and say, okay, can you help us?
Sure, without getting into some of the confidentiality, but I'll give you an example. So we produce for 3 of the largest spirits companies in the world. And so they will come to us and say, we want to do innovation, right? So we have some innovation we want to do. And because of the way our system is set up, we can go down to 100 barrels, we have 33,000 gallon fermenters. We could run that through a massive system, get the same quality and consistency out of that while going down to what you would consider a small run. So why is that important? Because you can test and then you can expand, right? So it allows you to do tests and then allows you to grow that, to expand it. So that's one good example, right? Others that, we work with some of the best non-distilling producers, so these are great brands that never had a distillery behind them. But what I'd say at the end of the day is, you hear a lot in the industry too about there's too much, there's excess liquid on the market. There's too much whiskey that's out there, and that's true in some cases. But why that is ever more important to work with us for these companies, because creating highly differentiated products of the highest quality is really important in standing out for your customers, standing out for your, on the shelves, differentiating yourself from the competition and from a lot of that excess liquid that is out there. And so that's a big part of the work that we do. The other big difference is we're closed to the public. We have no brands of our own. We have no conflict of interest. So for a lot of companies, they don't want to produce in a facility where that facility is making brands that are competing with their brands in the market. They're focused on hospitality. They're focused on running a restaurant. They're focused on their sales teams. Our focus is 100% on our customers.
Okay, this makes perfect sense. But I also gather that you still pay tribute to the old school way of making bourbon. You're still inspired by that, but you've taken it to another level. I was talking before you came in, David. We were all discussing your company because it is interesting. And I was saying, okay, if I make this chair and it still has quality wood and the upholstery is fantastic, but I can take technology and make a better chair, then I'll do that. And you take a lot of the guesswork out and a lot of the possible mistakes that a company can make, correct?
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of historic and legacy and all of that. One of the most interesting things we did with the facility is when we looked at designing the capabilities. What we did is we put in the types of controls so that, for example, we can replicate the old Seagram's process. So that you're taking the fermenters, we could take the fermenters down into the 40 degrees. We can stretch fermentation out 4 or 5 days. You can do things, so we could actually replicate historic processes, or we could follow current techniques like Wilderness Trail did with a shorter fermentation time. So what's really interesting is that it gives us the flexibility to create all different types of things. So not only are you pushing technology, but you also have the ability to say, we're going to produce it the way it used to be produced. Now, in the former business, we couldn't do that because we didn't have that type of control over the facility. We weren't able, and have that kind of cooling power, for example. This is designed so we could affect, I would say, 3 to 4 times more of those areas where you're generating different flavor profiles. So we give our customers incredible control over what you want to create. And sometimes they know exactly what they want to create. Sometimes we do it together. Sometimes, it's sort of, we want to do what we have done in the past. So there's a lot of different ways we work together.
There's a lot of different kind of analogies, but here's one for you. Would you say this is true? We've talked to diamond experts, jewelry experts on the show, and we talk about now they make these, engineered diamonds that are so exact to the old school way that he said, I can look at this diamond all I want, and I can't tell the difference. They have to mark themselves because it is so perfect. You can duplicate something in lesser time as well, right?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that's the case, as much as what you're doing is we're actually creating bourbon in many ways, in similar ways to it has been done before. Yes, we're adding technology. We've got efficiencies in it. We can do it the old way. We can do it new ways. And you're not accelerating the production of it, right? So we're not accelerating the aging process. We're not accelerating this. We are making improvements on it. I'll give you an example. So right now we have a completely really new design in terms of the warehouse that we developed for aging. And so the warehouse is long and skinny. We worked with a thermodynamics company and Busick Construction to create a long and skinny warehouse that allows for extremely good airflow and turnover, so you don't have a dead zone in the middle like you get in a larger one with a big square. And we do that so our customers have great airflow and maturation no matter where they are in the warehouse. We also have on the site coming very soon a warehouse that we've done with Cutter Construction that is also similar to that, also performs extremely well, a little bit differently. So at the end of the day, we're going to have the 2 best performing warehouses on our site, and it's going to be a really fun thing to see.
What you're doing sounds so technologically advanced. Is there anyone else in the world doing something similar? Because we hear about scotches and whiskeys from Scotland, or Japan makes great product. Is this the first of its kind, what you're doing?
Well, I would say like in certain areas it is, in certain areas it isn't. There's been a lot of other really great research that's been done out there. I mean, Sazerac and Buffalo Trace has historically done, some really great things on the aging side and testing and things. So, we're pushing boundaries and we're doing things in many different areas. I think one of the areas that we are really leading the charge is on data collection. So we collect more data now than any other distillery, I would say, certainly in the country, maybe the world. And we use that data three ways. So we have sensors through the whole facility. We're collecting data on every aspect of the manufacturing. We take that data and we use it to automate our processes, because the facility itself it's almost completely fully automated at this point, which is really amazing. Closed loop system, no open top fermentation, allows you to have tremendous control, sanitation, quality, all of those things. But we take that data, we use it to automate our processes. We also provide it to our customers through a portal where they're able to see their production, get their production information. Soon they'll be able to see their barrels in 3D in their warehouse. They'll be able to click on the barrel. They get all the information about how it's come, how it's produced. You can order samples, you can transfer inventory, all of that. And then the third thing is, because we collect more data than any other distillery, once you start running AI applications on it, we bring in the Jim Beam Institute and others, we can start doing experiments that nobody's really ever done because you haven't had the data. We assume a lot of things in distilling, like this product was great because it came from this part of the warehouse. Well, is that really true? Are there other things going on? There are thousands of variables. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. Let's study, let's like look at these things together. Really interesting stuff.
Wow. We can't talk about whiskey and bourbon globally without talking now, unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe you have a differing opinion about tariffs.
Mhm.
So where do you fit into that? Because you don't make your own product,
Mhm.
are you affected at all by that?
For us directly, the answer really is probably not so much. We have some pretty significant international customers, but they're not taking that product from us for 2, 3, 4 years from now, right? So that tariff isn't paid until it actually leaves. So for us, not as much of an issue. Look, we're hopeful, I think like anybody else, that this whole thing gets worked out, one big negotiation. So our hope is at the end of the day that when they are done, when the administration is done with the negotiations here, we all end up in a better place as America. So let's see how we do.
I'm curious about where you find your talent, because you're not looking for some guy who has a still in the back and is making moonshine.
Mhm.
You're looking for probably engineers and
Mhm.
people who are technologically
Yes,
advanced and working in that arena, the science arena. True.
really across the board. So I like to say, and probably what we are at Whiskey House most proud of. You can put the technology, the shiny equipment, all of that. We've got the best team in American whiskey, and I have no problem saying that. I truly believe it. The team is exceptional, and so we were able to assemble this team, attract this team. One, because of the excitement around it, but even more than that, we spent a tremendous amount of time on culture. I spend probably 40% of my time as a CEO in developing culture, and that's everything from developing the mission, vision, values at the early stage together, using those values then to hire the team and making sure the team fits into those values, the way we communicate. We just finished a study. And again, like this is funny, like we're 9 months old, but we had the new Sloan School of Business incoming class from MIT in with us for 6 months doing their business school study on Whiskey House and how we are communicating as a startup company. And so it was really, really important because communication is one of our most important values. And so they looked at it with us. They offered their recommendations. They met with the management team. They sat in all of our meetings. I mean, they were completely embedded with us. And as a result, every member on the MIT team got a barrel of whiskey. They didn't know that was coming, but when you're you're a relatively young student, that's not a bad gift.
No, no, that's a nice little perk. I'll take that one any day of the week.
That's right.
So when I'm okay, so I'm thinking about your whiskey, and we're accustomed to, looking at corn and the beautiful colors and the smells and the
Mhm.
notes that you arrive from whiskey.
Mhm.
And now I'm talking to you, and I'm thinking, okay, technology, high-end science. Where do you see the industry moving? Is it more in your direction? But it'll always be
Mhm.
about the limestone, the corn, the
Mhm.
mash, right?
There's a lot, there's so many different ways. And I think what's really beautiful about, what we do in American whiskey and bourbon in particular here in Kentucky is there's no exact right answer. For us, we feel a very specific need for a very important number of brands and customers. But that's not the same for everybody. And so I think where do you see things? I mean, I think where you see things in many ways where the industry is moving is you see a lot of focus on here certainly is creating experiences. Right, I'm on the Kentucky Bourbon Festival board. I was a chairman for not this past year, but 4 years before. Last 4 years before that, we rebuilt that experience. We spent a lot of time at Bardstown developing the experience, creating the restaurant. We now have 2.7 million people coming through the state. When I first came to Kentucky,
Whoa.
we had 500,000 people on the Bourbon Trail 10 years ago, roughly. 600,000. We're at 2.7 million. That's amazing, right? And so it's a huge kudos to the distilleries, to the state, governor, the KDA, everything that everyone is doing. So where do I see things going? Innovation, continuing to have different expressions, continuing to create experiences, continuing to create products that really connect with the consumer. These are a lot of things that you not only do you see them in bourbon, you see them in other industries too. People and consumers are really interested in everything about their product, right? And that's not a trend that's going anywhere.
So for you, how does the process start? Do companies reach out to you? Do they say, okay, I need more production, or I mean, I guess, how is the connection made
Sure.
when
I
that
mean,
works?
so, Whiskey House is a very exclusive experience. And so it's closed to the public, although for our customers, it's completely open to them. All the spaces we have inside are designed and built so they can come in and work side by side with us, use our facility, for their needs as well. But, beyond that, the company itself and the leadership, myself and my partners, we have a very strong network in this industry. And so a lot of what we do is word of mouth. These are relationships that we have. Where will you not see Whiskey House? You won't see Whiskey House at a trade show with a booth on the floor.
No need.
This is just not how we operate, right? And so we're not really for everybody, right? And so we're very careful about, who we work with. And so a lot of that is, people reach out to us, companies will reach out to us, we will reach out to them. We know who we believe is a really good fit for the facility and of course all of those customers that we have currently in the facility. And so, it's an incredible platform, and we've got some big plans for it.
Because of the data that you collect, are there customers who say, look, I don't need your whiskey, I need access to the information you have? Is that part of what you do?
Do we sell information? No. Are we bundling it up? No. But what we do is we're developing that platform now as we go forward. And so when you were talking about the types of people, that we have, not only have a distilling and manufacturing team that's really got about 347 years of a combined manufacturing distilling experience. Our engineering and technology team is different than your typical engineers in a distillery. Our engineering team is software developers, data scientists, data architects. The entire system that we have that collects the data we built in-house over 2 years. Major, major investment for us, a huge one. But we knew if we didn't make that investment day one, you're never going to be able to go back and do it. And so it's about creating an open architecture. So as that data comes in, you're able to capture it automatically and then be able to slice it up and feed it out to the different things. But it happens without coding it in,
I
right?
got
So
it.
it's
Okay.
you don't have somebody hand inputting things. It's happening automatically. And so now as we move forward, it's about how we allocate those resources to provide that information to our customers.
We talk a lot on the show about economic impact
Mhm.
and the state of Kentucky, and of course the bourbon industry. We're very proud of the economic impact. For you, talk a little bit about where you source your product.
Mhm.
The number of employees,
Mhm.
the economic impact that the whiskey house has.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, we have a very lean operation because the facility is fully automated. So we have 68 people on the team, and that is it's a very significant size facility, right? We're 110,000 square feet. We do roughly 112,000 barrels a year in production. But for our facility, we run two 12-hour shifts, right? So we have four teams of seven. Three people run the entire distillery. And then, of course, on that team of seven, you also have quality, maintenance, you have your supervisors, but that is a very lean operation, and that is because of the technology and the automation. So it allows us to be very efficient.
But partnerships, but
Mhm.
where do you gather who do you source for your corn?
Sure.
Yeah.
So a couple of pieces there. We have partnership with one of the largest grain distribution companies in the country, Schooler. Much of our corn comes complete, is locally within the local community. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to what does the customer want? Because we're creating a product that is customized, so it can get as differentiated as they want. It can get, we can get very geeky with some of this
Sure.
stuff in terms of, and we love that, we love that process. And so we do some really interesting things with our customers and their brands. But that supply chain and where things are sourced from are really dependent on what the customer wants. Now, we have great supplier relationships, much of those from the grain side, obviously, the majority of it is local. The barrel side, we source barrels from anybody, again, that our customers want, but our primary partner is Independent Stave, company, and then we also work with others as
And the
well.
customers drive a lot of those choices. The customer.
They do.
Okay. Yeah,
Customer
that's
will drive a lot of it. They
customer
will.
oriented. That's what
Yes,
when I hear about the whiskey house, and I know the folks are watching and listening, it sounds almost like sci-fi and bourbon industry. It's just almost like a sci-fi story. Whose vision was this? Talk a little bit about your co-founder.
yes,
Talk about your partners and people that you
absolutely.
work with. Yeah.
So, Whiskey House was founded by, myself, the former COO of Bardstown Bourbon Company, John Hargrove, and Dan Lind, who was the former CFO of Bardstown Bourbon Company. Dan and I were original founders of Bardstown. And John really, in so many ways, the facility itself, the design, the concept, is really not only is it all basically a combined expertise of all of us, taking everything we've done in our careers and now, putting it to work at Whiskey House. But for John's background is advanced food manufacturing. He came from PepsiCo, Frito-Lay with the Sazerac team, Jake Wentz. And when he came over, he was given Barton brands, to basically fix it. And so, it was an old facility, and he was in charge at that time of doing that. He was given the title of master distiller at that time. He had advanced food manufacturing background. He learned the distilling side of it. And then I was able to, amazingly recruit him to come to Bardstown Bourbon Company in 2017. And John changed the entire face of, where we were, because we were struggling at that time. We had come up with and sold this idea to do custom whiskey production. It was one thing to go out and sell it. It was another thing to actually then start trying to do it in a facility that was never designed to do it. And so we made it work. He upgraded it. We did our best that we could. But when John came in, he changed the whole face of that. So when we sold the business, the three of us got together and we said, you know what? There is a need now to create a facility that's actually designed from scratch to do just this one thing, taking everything that we've learned, taking it to the next, not just the next level, multiple levels up. And so that's how it came about. And of course, Dan Lind, who is now the chief strategy officer of us, has got incredible, background. He was my college roommate. We've worked together in multiple businesses over the years.
You've given me a comfort level because we're very proud of the fact when I kicked off the interview, I talked about 95% of the
Yeah.
world's bourbon production right here in Kentucky. And after talking to you, I don't see that being threatened because of the technology that's involved here. You're moving forward and keeping bourbon right here in Kentucky. You've got to be proud of that.
I'm extremely proud of it, and we're extremely proud of the heritage here and the history. I live in Bardstown. I'm very much embedded in the community there, very active in the community, whether it's in the Kentucky Distillers Association, the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. We couldn't have a better group of champions at Whiskey House, for Kentucky bourbon, and so we're thrilled to be a part of it, and we're just really pleased that we made some of the choices that we did.
David, do you have any mentors in the industry? People that you look
Sure.
up to and say, okay, that guy, I like the way he works.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of my earliest ones, Bill Samuels, just a wonderful mentor. I mean, somebody that, I talk to, frequently. As we were chatting earlier, of course, Joe Magliocco is just wonderful individual. Max Shapiro, very early on, he's a dear friend. I'll never forget the day that I went to him when we came back, because I knew him back in the days when we had the vodka company in New York. And I said to him, we're going to start Bardstown Bourbon Company right down the street, and here's the plan. And he looked at me, he goes, why do you want to do that? Which is really like, it was a very, very
That's
funny,
daunting. Yeah.
very funny line. But then all the way, I'll go back, to John Esposito, who was the chairman of Whistle Pig and former CEO of Bacardi and Stoli, among others. But, you never get to where you get to in life without a lot of help, some great mentors, and some real luck too, right? And so I've had some great people in this industry that have helped me get this far. I've had others before that, some amazing ones, but certainly in this industry, those folks.
Yeah, all of that experience and like you said, the influences and the relationships you've made really helped the whiskey house be a success that it is.
Yeah.
This to me, so I have to ask you,
Yeah.
what when you're sipping whiskey,
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's okay for you to give a little bit of your personal preferences. Go lay it on me. What do you like?
It's really funny. I mean, there's so many different things that I like. I mean, I tend to gravitate towards cask strength, right? So I like strong. I like it to pack a punch. I typically like I like a Manhattan. So anybody that knows me knows
Okay.
that is my favorite. But I like a barrel strength Manhattan, and there's so many different products that we can talk about that certainly that I like, and many of them obviously we produce for now.
Yes, yes.
But I mean, but those are sort of the characteristics of what I look for. But I think what's great about what about bourbon is that you there isn't any right answer, right? There's so much out there, and so much of it comes down to what you like as an individual, what you like in terms of, the choices. And so it's really a lot of fun. And I don't know if you get a chance to come to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival at all.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
tickets
Ooh.
go on sale here very shortly on the 17th, early access on the 16th. But we have built that festival into now the greatest shopping experience in America for bourbon whiskey. And I got to thank the state legislature and the KDA. Now that we can sell bottles directly to the consumers and the distilleries can, it is hands down the greatest experience. You got to come check it out.
Yes, and again, you want to feel Kentucky pride, go there. I mean, you're
Absolutely.
gonna hear bluegrass, you're gonna experience some great
I'll, t-
bourbon.
I'll tell you, you can hear about challenges in the whiskey industry. You come to Kentucky Bourbon Festival, you will not think there is a single challenge in the American whiskey industry. The tickets will go on sale on the 16th. I will tell you, the VIP tickets will sell out in 2 to 3 minutes, like Taylor Swift style. I'm not
I
kidding.
love that.
I'm not kidding. And we just keep upgrading the experience. It's a beautiful experience. And Bardstown is the bourbon capital of the world.
Yep, yes, it is. You remind me of you mentioned one of your mentors, and I'm a big fan of Joe Molioco, but you mentioned Bill Samuels,
Huh.
and Bill Samuels had a vision as well, and he was
Yes.
a marketing guy. He really grasped the whole Maker's Mark wax, and
Mhm.
let's do something different. I have to tell you a funny story. So I was interviewing Bill Samuels one time, and he was telling me, I said, so tell me a little bit about your story. He said, well, I was kind of the black sheep of the family. He said, John, he goes, I was a little wild, a little crazy. He goes, probably a lot like you. And I go, hold on. How did you know I was wild? He goes, brother, it takes one to know one. I'm looking at you and I go, okay, you're right, but I just wonder how'd you know? But but
Sounds like Bill.
but for you, the industry is still fun, right?
It is. Yeah, absolutely it is. There's no question. It's very collegial and it's fun. I love the industry, and it's been great to us, and I feel like we've also been able to contribute a lot, to it as well, and we're very proud of that.
Whiskey House is fascinating. And I find the bourbon industry fascinating, how it's made, and a lot of these distilleries, just about everyone I know has a tasting room and experience this, and it's really a big part of the industry. Are you going to stay away from that, or maybe in the future you're going to try to move towards that?
Well, it's really interesting that you asked that. At the main facility in Elizabethtown, that facility is closed to the public, but our license gives us the ability to have a tasting room, not only in close proximity to our Elizabethtown facility, but anywhere else in the state. And so, with that license, we can then taste, sell the brands and the products, that we produce at Whiskey House. So it won't be long in the future that you may see a Whiskey House of Kentucky tasting room in Louisville or somewhere else. But also check out at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. We did the VIP tent last year. It also allows us to do tastings and sales at fairs and festivals for our customers. So there's a lot more coming on that front too. So we love the brand side of the business. We love helping brands or helping create sustained value for our brands, which is really part of our mission. So there's a lot of things that we'll be pushing into for them.
So what you and I sharing a little sifter of bourbon could happen at your place in the future. Could happen.
Very possible.
Whiskey House. Wow, this is a whole new chapter for Kentucky bourbon. So congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you, your partners, your company, David
Thank
Mandell,
you. Thank you very much.
co-founder, CEO, and moving on. What does the future hold for you?
We've got a lot of work to do at Whiskey House, so the future is very bright. There's tremendous amount of opportunities for that company as we look into the future and growth in that company and many different areas that we're planning on branching out into. So we're very excited. We're not going anywhere.
Yep, you're not. And bourbon's not going anywhere.
No.
Here we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Appreciate
me.
it. Once again, we thank you for watching Gaining Interest, powered by Legato Financial. They're great partners. Once again, David, thank you. Whiskey House of Kentucky, not open to the public, but you should check out the story online. It is fascinating. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.